Chris Mannix for the crossover alongside Rowan Nedkarni and Howard Beck. Guys, it seems like James Wiseman's season is over. The number one pick in last fall's draft. He's got a knee injury with Golden State. The Warriors are expecting next season to go into the year as contenders when Klay Thompson returns. Rowan, is it better for Golden State to have James Wiseman as part of that group, or should they look to trade him for something that might fit their timeline more?
This is obviously a very interesting question. Now, that may depend who's on the table for James Wiseman. If they can get Bradley Beal or some other superstar, it might make sense to trade him. But here's really what I think the issue is with James Wiseman. I think he can be a foundational piece if the Warriors actually kind of use him correctly and play him to his potential. I think Steve Kerr, obviously, we all have a lot of respect for him. But he's received some, I think, just criticism this year for how Wiseman was handled on the court. He was in and out of the lineup early in the season. It really wasn't until these last couple of weeks where the Warriors really seemed to commit to the pick and roll game between Steph Curry and James Wiseman, and it was very successful. Steph Curry's a great pick and roll player. Wiseman's very athletic. He can be a lob threat. He's a great shooter. He can be a pop threat. It felt like once the Warriors finally leaned into that, Wiseman was playing the best basketball of his career. So I think if the Warriors commit to using Wiseman in the right ways, maybe ditching a little bit of their motion offense and going to something more traditional, and that you're running Steph Curry in pick and rolls with his big man, he can be that foundational piece. And I think that's going to be more important for their future moving forward. Is if they use James Wiseman correctly, I think he can be a very big part of their future.
I look forward to seeing that future with Rohan Nadkarni on the bench as Steve Kerr's top assistant, letting him know what kind of offense he should run so that he can win yet another championship. Listen, James Wiseman looks like a nice young player, might be a nice young player, and we still don't know. 3 college games and now less than a full NBA season, half essentially of an NBA season. His promise, his potential, his allure is still greater than his present value, which means trade him. Trade him if you can. Trade him if you can find the right package. And we don't know if Bradley Beal is going to be available, but if you could get Bradley Beal or Miles Turner, who knows? Maybe Pascal Siakam. Maybe the Wolves finally decide to move on from Karl Anthony Towns and blow it up this summer with their new ownership group. I don't know. But if there's anybody available who can move the needle for the Warriors in the present, you have to do it. Steph Curry is not getting any younger. Klay Thompson's coming back after 2 very serious injuries. Draymond Green has not made an All-Star game since 2018. We don't know how big the window still is for that threesome, but whatever it is, you have to move and take advantage of the situation right now. And whatever you could get for Wiseman, assuming you can that there's a market out there and players who are available, stars available, those guys can help you get to a championship now better than James Wiseman can.
Yeah, I think Wiseman is going to be a really, really good NBA player. I know he hasn't had the body of work in college or in his first season, but what I've seen from him this year especially, I think he has all the tools to be elite. He's massive. So I think he's going to be a great rebounder as his career moves forward, if nothing else. And the center's really coming back, guys. I mean, it used to be where you kind of just wanted these Clint Capella, DeAndre Jordan, rim runner types. Nowadays, the big centers, even though they're doing a lot more offensively, they're back. Whether it's Joel Embiid, Rudy Gobert, Nikola Jokic. I mean, 2 of the top MVP candidates are going to be from the center position. So I think holding on to him has its merits. And really, Howard, you mentioned a few names. There's only one I would trade him for, and that's Bradley Beal. Bradley Beal is 27 years old. He is still very much in the prime of his career. You can see a scenario where Bradley Beal, Klay Thompson, and Steph Curry all work well together. And having 3 shooters in that Steve Kerr offense is only going to make it that much more dangerous. I would not trade him for Miles Turner. I would not trade him for Pascal Siakam, who seems to have forgotten how to shoot a jump shot. Bradley Beal, to me, Howard, is the only guy I would move James Wiseman.
Possibly. And we don't even know if Beal will be available, although I think that, that situation is going to crack eventually. It seems untenable, to say the least. And as I say, it's fully dependent upon whether there's some player who does move the needle. We can disagree about which of those players actually move the needle or how many could move the needle, but the Warriors have some tools here. Wiseman, their own pick, the Timberwolves' top 3 protected pick. Whatever they can use to leverage themselves into a existing all-star or somebody who is a step below that, I think there are a lot of players who can get them closer to a title or back to title contention next season than James Wiseman can, coming off of an injury-racked rookie season and still be a guy who at 20 years old has very little on his resume to speak for.
I would just like to once again jump in here. Howard may have criticized my coaching skills. I would just like to criticize his GM skills. I'm sorry. Did you say Miles Turner, Carl Anthony Towns? A guy, I mean, the Pacers themselves haven't even wanted to commit to Miles Turner. He's been on the trade block seemingly his entire career. Carl Towns, obviously a very talented player, but I think clearly hasn't done much to move the needle himself in Minnesota.
He would next to Steph Curry.
I think James Wiseman could be that guy next to Steph Curry, and we saw it in practice. I mean, we saw guys like Steph and Draymond Green themselves talking about the virtues of the Steph Wiseman pick and roll, something Steve Kerr himself said that he wants to start running more often after the success it's had over the last 2 weeks. I just think it's too early to give up on someone that talented, who is that high of a draft pick for a reason. While he's also, if you want to get into this top, a cost-controlled asset, someone who's not going to cost them a lot of money over the next few years as they bump into the luxury tax. I think there are a lot of reasons to keep James Wiseman, and I think they can win with him, especially once Clay is healthy.
No, I would trade Wiseman for Towns too. I just don't think Towns is going to be available this offseason. I think we're probably a year or so away from that being forced by Karl Towns. But to me, Bradley Beal's the only guy that fits the bill. If not him, I would keep Wiseman in that mix. Let him be the physical presence Draymond Green needs alongside him, and see, to Rohan's point, if he can develop some more chemistry with Curry and Thompson as they come back healthy next season. For more, check us out over at SI.com.